I am switching interfaces. Today, we're gonna talk about why. We're gonna talk about what I'm switching to and why I'm switching to it. And we're gonna unbox some of it. Super candid type video. Let's have some fun. Hey everyone, I am Cole Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. Now, as anyone who's seen my videos before has known, I've been running a Universal Audio Apollo Mark II, the black version, for since I moved to Nashville, which is probably when did I move? 2015. I was like one of the first people to have one of the new Mark II interfaces way back in the day. There was no YouTube channel. I didn't have any following on Instagram, and I was just a working engineer. So I bought this as my new rig. Now, previously, I had a Pro Tools HD I rig with a couple of 96IO Avid, well not Avid, DigiDesign interfaces. And I really loved the HD workflow. I loved absolutely everything about it. The main switch though was because I couldn't afford a new version like that. And so I went with the Apollo. Also, computers became powerful enough. This is when I switched to the Trashcan Mac Pro. Computers were finally powerful enough that I didn't need that HD III rig in order to just get through a mix, because I used to run tons of TDM plugins, and the process cards, the HD cards, would host tons of processing power. It was a whole thing. So I switched to the Apollo. And when I first switched, it was great. It sounded way better than my 96IOs, like the converters were way better. It took up significantly less room because I had 16 channels of I/O in a single rack space instead of 16 channels of I/O in 4 rack spaces, so that was great. It also was fairly affordable. Like, I think I paid somewhere around $3 for the interface and somewhere around $3 for the computer. So $6 all in for a completely new system that was significantly more powerful and sounded better. I considered this a huge win. Now, as all of you who watch this channel know, I mix with a ton of hardware. I have been mixing with a ton of hardware literally forever. Now, when you mix with hardware as hardware inserts, I put a hardware insert on the channel in Pro Tools, and it sends signal out the interface through the gear and back into the interface, and this is called a round trip. Now, every round trip on every interface takes a certain amount of time for it to leave for the audio to leave the computer, be converted to an analog signal, go through the gear, hit the converter, be converted to a digital signal again, and then back into the computer. This is called a round trip. Now, in the Pro Tools HD world, on my old HD III rig, this was always calculated automatically. It happened in the background. I never ever thought about it. And I just thought this is how everything worked, and I swear to you this is how this went. I got my Apollo and got the new rig set up, and the same thing kept happening. I was patching in hardware, no issues, no latency, no phase issues, nothing whatsoever. Now, if you scroll way back on this channel, one of the very first videos on this channel that did anything at all, I filmed with my cell phone because I updated to Pro Tools 2019, I can't remember which version, and all of a sudden, overnight, my Apollo stopped manually calculating or automatically calculating the round trip. And this was mind-blowing to me because I had never had this issue before. I talked to people at Avid, I talked to people at Universal Audio. Everyone was like, no, it's never done that. It's never automatically calculated everything. And I'm like, I promise you it has, because for like 4 years it's been doing it and I've never had any issue. It was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. Ever since that moment, which was in 2019, so we're talking 5 years ago now, I started swearing that I was going to move away from the Apollo. I think Apollos are great. I think they're great bang for the buck. I think they sound great. I've got no real issues with them other than the workflow. And it was at this moment that the workflow started to annoy me to the point where I'm like, I want to move to something else. Because every time I get hired to mix a song that's in a different sample rate, or anytime I change the hardware buffer, the amount of time that it takes for that round trip to happen changes. And so I have a video, a really crappy video, going over how to figure out what the round trip delay is, and then I have to go in and I have to manually enter that into every single hardware I/O channel. And I have to redo this every time I change sample rates. So that was a real bummer. And then also like the Universal Audio console workflow, it just started to not be for me. We'll just leave it at that. I really miss the simplistic workflow that I used to have. So, without further ado, I'm changing interfaces. Some of you probably know this, and I've been talking about going back to this for literally years. Let's get to unboxing some stuff, and I'm gonna show you what all I'm using for the new rig. So, how many of you guys are into EDC? Drop me a comment, let me know if you're into this sort of thing. I'm super into it. So this is a ProTech Runt. Look at this little thing. And then we got a little button right there, and when we push that little button, I love, this is like just the cutest little thing. I love this knife. Okay, start unboxing some stuff. Ugh. Okay, first up, I'm very pumped about this, you guys, because I'm so pumped to be back to the workflow that I would like to be at. Cables. This is gonna be kind of an impromptu video here. Okay, set that there carefully. Get rid of this box, not so carefully. Okay. So, piece number 1. How do we open it? There it is. Now this is gonna be kind of a two-parter situation because I'm switching to 2 interfaces. First up, the Avid HD I. Look at how beautiful that is. Now, this is gonna be my interface to run all my hardware I/O, all my hardware inserts, probably tracking. We'll see which one of these sounds better for tracking, but the main purpose for this is hardware I/O when mixing. So you can see on the back here, we are outfitted with 16 channels. I'm out of breath. We're outfitted with 16 channels here on this, and that is one of the other things that has kind of annoyed me ever since the moment I got my Apollo, is even though the Apollo is a 16 channel interface, it has 16 outputs and 16 inputs, line, outs, and ins. Because of the way the Apollo architecture is set up, outputs 1 and 2 are mirrored for your monitors. So you can never actually have an actual 16 channels of hardware I/O going. You can only have 14 channels because the first 2 outputs are dedicated for the monitors. That's weird. I don't like that at all. I'm not sure if it's like that on the new versions, but I'm very pumped about this because we'll have actually 16 channels of I/O. Very, very cool. So, Avid HD I/O. Obviously, now you guys know that I'm going back HD. We'll get there, so hang tight. Okay, let's set this here. Next up, I did crack this open already because I was too pumped when it came in, and I just couldn't wait. Next up, we have got the Avid Matrix Studio, and I'm really pumped about this box. To me, in my opinion, at this time, at the time of recording this, this is the best interface, the best all-in-one solution for setting up an Atmos rig. Now this would be a fantastic solution even if you're not looking to do Atmos. However, if you're mixing with hardware and you want that hassle-free, zero latency round trip, all the stuff, and I'll go over some more stuff here in a minute, like the benefits of running an HD system, because there's a bunch of them. If you're planning on mixing with hardware and you want that whole automatic delay compensation thing, you need to go with the Avid HD interfaces. But this, for recording and for Atmos, is such an incredibly powerful all-in-one setup because you've got all your EQ, all your room correction, all your delay values in a way that are actually very, very precise. A lot of the boxes like this don't have nearly as precise a delay calculations or adjustments, which is really important to have. And the converters in this are supposed to sound absolutely amazing. So I'm really pumped. To me, these two together, this is gonna be perfect for me. This is exactly like, it solves 100% of my problems. So on the back, we have 16 ins and outs in addition to monitor outs. On the front, we've got 2 headphone jacks and 2 instrument inputs. And then if you wanted to use this as your monitor controller, your only controller, you could do that as well. I'm undecided on how I'm gonna handle that, but super, super pumped on that. Avid Studio Matrix. I can't believe I'm finally going back HD. This has been weighing on me for so long. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Oh, the other thing with this is these are not just HD interfaces. You can run this via Thunderbolt too. They have a Thunderbolt card that you just slide right into the back. And then this is Thunderbolt as well. So single interface right into your computer. You want to run Atmos without HD. This Thunderbolt right in does absolutely everything. It's just a really easy solution. And I am really looking forward to putting that to good use. Ugh. Okay. Now, because all of us are running these new Macs that have no card slots in them, they're just an all-in-one. I'm still running the Mac Studio. Had to get this. This is a chassis for the Pro Tools card. And so you just slide this right into the back. You slide the card into the back, and then it connects to the computer via Thunderbolt and sits right there looking all nice and pretty on the desk. So very, very important piece of the rig. Here's the real fun one. Let's scoot a little closer. Come here, let's get a little closer. Oh man. This is the sauce. This right here is the sauce. Now I'm not gonna take this out of the wrapper because static and whatnot, but that's the sauce. So this is the Pro Tools HDX card. This is what's gonna drive the entire system. I am really, really pumped about this, you guys. Like, this is such a huge stress relief for me. This is not a cheap rig. And I'm not gonna pretend like it's a cheap rig, and I'm not gonna pretend like this is a rig that's for everyone, because it's absolutely not. This is a very, very high-end rig. And I will put links down below to every single thing that you see here so you can go check it out and look at prices and specs and all of that. This is a rig that is a solution for me to solve the problems that I experience when I'm working on upwards of 200 songs a year. I've been working on so many songs every single year for so many years, and I had this discussion briefly with the Flock Patch Bay. When we're talking about being able to save even minutes, if I can save minutes off of a song, it's worth it, because you times that by hundreds per year, and it ends up being a big deal. Now, let's quickly talk about Pro Tools in general. There's inevitably gonna be people in the comments saying Pro Tools is not the industry standard. You should try Reaper, bro. I have absolutely no plans to ever switch from, well, I won't say ever, because who knows what'll happen 10 years from now. I have no plans to switch from Pro Tools at all. Every single studio that I do sessions in runs Pro Tools. And every single session player that I work with where we fly sessions back and forth, we all use Pro Tools. The Pro Tools is so deeply integrated into what I do that even if I wanted to switch, which I don't, there's no other option. It is just, when you live in a town like Nashville and you're flying sessions back and forth to session players all over the place and to different studios all over the place, there's no other option. You're running Pro Tools, and it just is what it is. Now, luckily, I came up on Pro Tools. I've been on Pro Tools since version 5 in 2003 or 2004. I don't even remember what year it was. Like, I've been on Pro Tools a really, really long time. Operating Pro Tools is kind of like breathing to me. I love it. I love how the editing is in Pro Tools. So anyway, this isn't necessarily a praise Pro Tools video, but I know there's gonna be a huge amount of comments saying you should switch to Reaper. What about Logic? And I'm just not interested at all. Never have been, and still am not. Then you couple that with the power of the HD rig. So we're talking basically zero latency monitoring for when tracking. The idea that I can finish a mix, and this is what I thought the Apollo would do for me, and it did not. The fact that I can finish a mix with tons of hardware and tons of plugins, and then the singer can be like, you know, I really don't like that vocal take. Can I come in and recut it? And this has happened many times before. Can I come in and recut that vocal? Yes, absolutely. With my old rig, or the rig that's still set up here, I would have to take all of the hardware inserts off. The whole mix would fall apart. And then we would recut vocals to a crappy sounding mix because I couldn't run hardware inserts while tracking at the same time. I couldn't even have the same amount of latency because as soon as I changed that hardware buffer, then all of a sudden all of my delay calculations are off. And so now all of a sudden the drums sound like a flammy mess while we're trying to track vocals. It was impossible. It won't be impossible with this rig, and it didn't used to be impossible on my old rig. That is such a huge stress relief to me. Being able to open any session from anyone at any sample rate, and it doesn't even matter what the hardware buffer is, and it's just gonna automatically calculate all of my delays for me, is a huge deal to me. It's gonna save me so much time and so much headache. The fact that there is no like console to deal with, the fact that everything just happens on the mix page, well, or the edit page window in Pro Tools, and I don't have to like, oh, whoops, that microphone's still live. Oh, that's still record enabled. Oh, I'm mixing now. I gotta make sure I switch over to the console and mute everything so that way I don't hear its live input not in time with the song. Like it's just always something, and I'm pumped to not have to deal with it anymore. No shade at anyone who runs an Apollo, because I did for years. I made great music with it. I have made the best music of my career on that Apollo. But I'm really looking forward to this. In addition to the fact that those converters are now nearly a decade old. And I know that these are gonna sound way better. I know that for sure. And so I'm really pumped to move into some converters that are like really great converters. And then on top of all of that, then you plug in the Atmos system on top of it. I know this isn't super relatable. I know a lot of you are not interested in Atmos or interested in switching to Atmos. I am, and I am going forward with it. The room is almost done. That video will be coming soon. Still, to this day, I know there's been a bunch of boxes come out since I chose this Avid Studio Matrix. I know there's been a bunch of boxes come out since then, and I'm not trying to disparage any of them. For me, for my use cases, for what I'm doing, this is still hands down the best option. It's gonna play nicely with my Pro Tools HD rig. I like its layout. I like everything about it. And so I'm really pumped to move into this system. There's only one downfall, and that is just that for whatever reason, I went with the tabletop version of the card chassis. I may switch this to a rack mount version. I don't know really what I was thinking. I probably should have just went for the rack mount to begin with. However, if you want to save rack space, this is the way to go. And it does look nice. It's sturdy. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. We'll see how that shakes out because I'm gonna have a lot of rack space in the new setup. So I will put links down below for every single piece of gear that I talked about in this video, and those links do go to Sweetwater. So thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. Sweetwater did not send me all this, by the way. This is just an ad read. This is not a Sweetwater sent me all this so I could tell you to buy from Sweetwater. This is just an ad read, two totally separate things. So thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. Anytime you guys need any piece of musical gear, you can jump on any one of my videos and click on any link in the description below. And once you're on the site, you can purchase anything you need. And when you do that, it goes a long ways to help support this channel and help me keep making informative videos, or hopefully informative and hopefully teaching informational type videos. And so I really appreciate Sweetwater sponsoring this video, and I really, really appreciate anytime you guys need anything using the links in the description before you buy. I'm so pumped about this. I know I've said that a bunch already, and I recognize that this is not the most relatable video, but this is what I need for my career and for what I am trying to do moving forward. And at the very least, I hope that you just enjoyed it. And hopefully some of you who are in a similar position, hopefully this helped you decide what to go with. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of videos coming on the Atmos rig, on the build, on just my progression back into the big room. It's gonna be really fun. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.